Sergey Lavrov, Russia's foreign minister, is now advising the European Union on how not to fall apart. The reason for his irritation is obvious. Ukraine is officially moving toward EU membership. For Moscow, this means Ukraine moving further away from the Russian Empire, despite missiles, blackmail and occupation. After talks with the Turkish foreign minister, Hakan Fidan, Lavrov mocked Ukraine's EU path and claimed that if Kyiv joins the bloc, the European Union will simply collapse.
From the point of view of the European Union's internal problems, perhaps it would not be a bad thing for Ukraine to join it. Then they will simply fall apart.
Then Lavrov moved from Europe to Zelensky personally. He claimed the Ukrainian president is not engaged in real diplomacy and accused him of simply playing for the audience.
Zelensky is not engaged in normal diplomacy. He is simply playing for the audience, and also playing the piano.
Lavrov also turned to Belarus and issued another warning to Ukraine and the West.
Zelensky keeps inciting the West, claiming that Belarus is preparing to attack Ukraine. Belarus is our ally. At the moment, Belarus is not taking part in the conflict. But if the West and Kyiv try to drag Minsk into hostilities, they will not like what comes next.
Belarus may not have officially sent its army across the border, but it has been involved from the very beginning of Russia's full-scale invasion. Russian troops entered Ukraine from Belarusian territory in February 2022. Missiles were launched from Belarus. Russian aircraft used Belarusian airspace. The country became a launchpad for the attack on Kyiv. The Kremlin is already waiting for Trump's people. Dmitry Peskov says Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner may visit Moscow after June 19. There are no exact dates yet, but according to Putin's spokesman, the basic agreement for the visit was reached during a phone call between Putin and Trump. For now, Witkoff and Kushner have another item on the calendar. Peskov says they are busy preparing the signing of a memorandum between the United States and Iran, expected on June 19. After that, Moscow says they could come to Russia as well. Meanwhile, the G7 summit in France ended with important decisions for Ukraine. In Avian, allies agreed to strengthen Ukraine's air defense, increase the supply of additional systems and interceptors missiles, and consider extending licenses that would allow Ukraine to expand its own military production. For Kyiv, this is one of the key outcomes. Ukraine needs more protection in the sky, but also more capacity to produce weapons at home. Russia is trying to exhaust Ukrainian air defense with the missiles and drones. The answer from partners now includes not only more deliveries, but also a discussion about how Ukraine can build more of what it needs itself. The G7 leaders also promised to increase pressure on Russia's war economy.
We commit to increase the pressure on the Russian war economy. In this context, we will strengthen our sanctions, including those on the oil and gas sectors. We consider this the right moment to proceed with additional measures, as President Trump has delivered a deal that we support in reopening the Strait of Hormuz.
Energy resilience was another part of the agreement. The G7 promised further support to help Ukraine get through the next winter. President Volodymyr Zelensky summed up the French summit as a practical gain for Ukraine: more air defense, more pressure on Russia, and stronger backing for Ukraine's energy security.
The G7 summit in France brought important results for Ukraine. Most importantly, we agreed on additional strengthening of Ukraine's air defense. There will be new steps to pressure Russia for the war, pressure for the sake of peace. Our partners will support our defense and energy resilience. It is important that we have a shared understanding of the main challenges and the concrete steps needed to respond to them. Our global unity truly reduces Russia's ability to continue this insane and criminal aggression against Ukraine. I thank everyone who helps us.
A tentative U.S. deal with Iran changed the mood among the leaders and helped ease tensions between Washington and its allies. Against that backdrop, Zelensky told G7 leaders that Ukraine is making progress against Russia's invasion, but more pressure on Moscow is still needed to bring a real negotiated settlement closer.
UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer and others also spoke of a mood change on Ukraine. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky who was invited to address the G7 leaders, made the case that his forces are making progress against Russia's invasion and that perhaps more pressure has to be applied for a negotiated settlement.
Hungary is now investigating a case it once presented as a major money laundering story. Prime Minister Peter Major has ordered an immediate internal probe into the so-called gold convoy case. The story goes back to March, when Hungarian authorities with Viktor Orban stopped armored vehicles belonging to Ukraine's state-owned Bank. The vehicles were carrying $40 million, 35 million euros and 9 kilograms of gold. Ukraine called the actions of Hungarian law enforcement arbitrary. Bank said the transfer was carried out under international rules and as a part of an agreement with Austria's Raiffeisen Bank. Now Hungarian media are reporting on an internal document that allegedly lists multiple legal flaws in the operation, including questions over the grounds for the raid, the role of the counterterrorism center, the detention of Ukrainian staff, and the seizure of the bank's money and gold.
We have ordered an immediate internal investigation into the gold convoy case at NAVTEK and the relevant services. The Prosecutor General must immediately speak out on this matter.
For Ukraine, this never looked like a routine customs check. 7 Ukrainian cash-in-transit employees were detained. According to Bank, one of them ended up in hospital after interrogation. The armored vehicles were later returned to Ukraine with damaged equipment. Hungary eventually returned the money and valuables. But the case is no longer only about the cash and gold. It is about who authorized an operation in the middle of Europe against a Ukrainian state bank convoy, why Ukrainian citizens were treated that way. Russian arms exports are facing competition in a market where Moscow used to feel almost comfortable. Algeria, one of the biggest buyers of Russian military aircraft, may purchase Chinese J-10C fighters and KJ-500 airborne early warning and control aircraft, according to French media. Algeria is a country with a long dependence on Soviet and Russian military equipment. If even partners like this are starting to look toward China, it means Russia's war against Ukraine is damaging not only its army on the battlefield, but also Moscow's reputation as an arms supplier.
Algeria is reportedly close to acquiring Chinese Chengdu J-10C multi-role fighter jets. In recent days, this information has been actively circulating on several specialized forums. The defense account SATA Armies even specified that the first deliveries could take place as early as 2027. The source is usually considered reliable, but there has been no official confirmation so far from either Algeria or China. The number of aircraft allegedly being purchased is also not specified. The J-10C is a fourth-generation fighter, like the American F-16 or the French Mirage. If this information is confirmed, it would be the first time Algeria buys aircraft from a country other than Russia.
And China, meanwhile, is quietly benefiting. It offers aircraft, missiles, radar coverage, airborne command and control, and a political package without Western conditions. For countries that do not want to depend entirely on Russia or the West, this becomes a convenient option. Algeria may not turn away from Moscow immediately, but the very search for a Chinese alternative says one thing, that old clients are not forever. Elon Musk may get an unexpected partner in the fight against Iranian drones. According to Forbes, SpaceX could potentially work with the Ukrainian defense tech developers to protect Starlink infrastructure. The reason is direct, that Iran is already threatening Starlink ground stations, and SpaceX partners accusing Americans and Israeli forces of using Starlink technology in military operations. For Ukraine, this is a familiar territory. Ukraine deals with the Iranian Shahed drones every day, testing low-cost interceptors, electronic warfare, sensors, and fast adaptation to new attacks. That experience could become useful for SpaceX, not as theory, but as a real battlefield practice.
For Ukraine, this is familiar territory. Ukraine deals with Iranian Shahed drones every day, testing low-cost interceptors, electronic warfare, sensors, and fast adaptation to new attacks. That experience could become useful for SpaceX, not as theory, but as real battlefield practice.
A Russian warship has created a new incident in the English Channel. Britain is investigating reports that the frigate Admiral Grigorovich fired warning shots near a UK-flagged civilian yacht. No one was injured, and the yacht was not damaged, but the location matters. This is one of Europe's busiest maritime corridors. Just days earlier, British forces intercepted a sanctioned tanker linked to Russia's shadow fleet in the Channel. That was about Russia's oil money and the network helping Moscow finance its war against Ukraine. Now a Russian frigate is accused of firing near a British civilian vessel. Pope Leo XIV welcomed the agreement between the United States and Iran, which is expected to be signed on Friday. He called it the result of patient dialogue and negotiations and expressed hope that it will help strengthen security and stability in the Middle East. But the Pope also spoke separately about Ukraine.
Painful news comes from the war in Ukraine, which continues to expand. So many innocent victims, rescuers killed, churches and cultural heritage sites devastated by flames. I am close to those who mourn their loved ones, to the wounded, and to those who, in the midst of violence, continue to serve life with courage. I invite everyone to pray for this war to end. Let us ask the Lord to open paths of dialogue, to extinguish hatred, and to make possible a just and lasting peace.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe on this channel and please subscribe on my own channel, Not Just Politics.